Hi there! Thanks so much for joining me. I am Laure Ferlita from Imaginary Trips. And don't you know, spring is just gloriously going to town all around me here in Florida. I know it's beginning to peak out in the northern states and in Canada, and I know that you're glad to see it. So why don't you join me in capturing some of these absolutely gorgeous colors in our sketchbook. This gives you a close-up of the journal page that I made representing my flowers to commemorate their absolute beauty, and I know they are not going to last very long, so wanted to go ahead and get them in my sketchbook. Did some outlining with ink just to give it more of a sketch journal look. And as you can see, even from the jar of tulips, I simplified it down just to the 3. And that was really so that I could get it done in a quick amount of time. For the purposes of the demonstration today, I've simplified it down even further, just down to the 1 tulip and 1 leaf, so that you can see very quickly how easy it is to capture tulips on your journal pages. Another way to make it quick and easy to capture these flowers in your sketchbook is to keep your palette very simple. I'm going to use Azo Yellow, Purell Red, and Sap Green. These are all M. Graham paints. These paints are wonderful for quick sketching on location, and they will really give you a wonderful mix when you put them together. Got a lot of nice warm oranges here. I have some very green yellows and some very light greens here. And here I have mixed the red and the green, and it's given me a darker red and it's given me a darker green for those areas where I need to put in some shadow work. You can use similar colors, a Hansa Yellow Light, Perline Red, or Windsor Red. Sap Green in almost any line is going to give you a pretty good representation of the same colors that I've used here. You'll note that my pencil lines are a little bit on the dark side. That's so they'll show up on the camera. It's entirely up to you as to whether you want to include or erase or lighten your pencil lines. But for them to show up on the camera, I need to go a little bit darker. I'm going to put down yellow, and I'm using a whole lot of pigment, but not a whole lot of water, because I don't really want a lot of fluid on the paper, because what I'm going to do next is I'm going to pick up the red, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a whole lot of pigment, but not a whole lot of water. I'm going to put that paint down right beside that yellow, and I'm going to let it bleed into the yellow. I'm going to darken it, and I'm going to come with a heavier pigment as I come down around this corner. And you can see it begin to feather out just a little bit. It's doing its thing. I'm going to come down here to the bottom, and I'm going to pick up just a little bit of green. I'm going to mix it with some yellow so that I'm getting some lighter color, and I'm going to touch that red so that those two can meld together. Red's going to flow into the green a little bit, and the green's going to flow into the red a little bit, and that's what I'm looking for. Now I'm going to come back and pick up a little bit more of the heavier pigment load of the sap green, and I'm going to come right along the outside of my stem. And I'm going to do that on both sides. And that's how I'm building up a little bit of roundness as the stem would be. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to touch water to those two sides and let them blend together. Now I'm going to take just clear water. I'm going to blend these colors up into what is going to be the petal area until I can get back there with color so that I'm not getting any hard, harsh lines when that color dries. Picking up the yellow once again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm coming around my edges. I'm going to come all the way down to the green and touch, making sure that my edge coming in is kind of jagged. Once again, picking up the red, touching. I'm going to leave a few white skips. I'll take care of those when I come back a little bit later. Again, picking up a little bit heavier pigment load, putting it on the outside, coming down to the green. Cleaning my brush. Cleaning my brush some more. I'm going to tease that color with the brush just a little bit so that it kind of begins to blend together just a little bit more. And again, you can begin to see where that color is bleeding into the yellow, but it's not taking over the yellow just like it didn't over on this side. Mixing the yellow with the red. I'm going to come into the back. I'm going to start to put down a heavy pigment load. I'm going to leave a few white skips, and then with clear water I'm going to spread that pigment out. Being very careful where I touch over on the side so that I'm not getting any bleeds. And again, picking up a little bit of the yellow mixed with the red. Putting in a little bit darker shade of color there. Coming back with pure yellow and dropping it in towards the top, so that it begins to look like those areas are part of the interior of the bloom. While I'm waiting for my bloom to dry, I'm going to go over and I'm going to start working in my leaf. And I'm putting down the yellow mixed with the green right along the edge. Then I'm going to pick up a little bit more of the green, and I'm going to come along the back side of the leaf. There we go. Clean my brush, and then with clear water I'm going to mix the two areas together. And again, I'm doing this so that I'm building in the illusion of roundness, and all I've done is just put in the paint. Again, same thing on this side, putting in the paint on the inside of the leaf, coming back, picking up the sap green, putting it right along the edge, cleaning my brush, and then coming back and pulling the two colors together, blending them just a little bit. And now I'll wait for that to dry before I go ahead and put in the interior of the leaf. I'm going to go ahead and put in the rest of my interior shapes. Once again, coming back with pure yellow right along the top here, pulling down along those ribs. Then I'm going to pick up pure red, once I get down to the bottom again, clean my brush, and with just clear water I'm going to feather that color out so that it kind of fades into the green. And I'm going to wait for that to dry. And while I'm waiting for the center leaf to dry, I'm going to go ahead and take a yellow wash and very quickly wash it over the entire leaf. Petal. That's going to change my red to more of an orange, which is more in keeping with the actual flower itself. And it also helps to kind of build a continuity throughout the bloom. Now I need to give that plenty of time to dry, so I am going to go and pick up my sap green again, and coming right up next to that curled edge, I'm going to drop in a fairly heavy pigment load. Now there's a bit of a shadow there, or would be, because that flower is in front of the leaf, so I'm going to mix a little bit of the red and a little bit of the green to give me kind of a darker shadow green. I'm going to drop that in. I see it's bleeding into my flower a little bit. I'm going to leave it alone, because if I try and fix it now, I'll get a glorious mess. And I'm going to go ahead and continue to work in my leaf. Using my water brush, I've added just a few lines, as you can see, here and there to kind of indicate some of the veining that is going on in the leaves, or in the petals. I have got a little bit of a darker shadow going on here in the background with the leaf so that it kind of pushes it back. I have a little bit of roundness to my stem, and I'm ready to call this done. I can either do some journaling around this, I could add some fancy text around it, I could ink my outline, or I can just leave it alone as is. Once again, this is Laure Ferlita from Imaginary Trips. Thank you so very much for joining me.